In today's video, we are going to look at what is single-handedly the worst piece of advice you can receive when it comes to hitting the driver, and what you should be thinking of instead. I'm sure you've all heard the advice that with a driver, you must hit up on the golf ball. Now, in reality, things are not nearly so black and white. If you think on the PGA Tour, the average is actually a little bit downwards with a driver. On the LPGA Tour, the average is slightly upwards with a driver. So in reality, you have a full array between those who hit up and those who hit down. You've got a broad spectrum. So where does this advice that you have to hit up come from? Potentially from the TrackMan optimizer charts, where you can see that at any given club speed, if you hit up on the golf ball, you will have the potential to hit the ball further than if you were to hit down on the golf ball. That could be one answer. But in reality, what's really important with a driver is that you hit it far enough, not necessarily the furthest, so that you can keep the ball in play and plot your way around the golf course and have the lowest score possible. There is a clear difference between playing tournament golf, playing your best golf, and long drive. Those are not the same thing. So why am I saying that the advice to hit up on the golf ball is such bad advice? Really, it's down to how the average golfer interprets that and tries to go about achieving it. What I see day in, day out is that to try and hit up on the golf ball, amateur players are going to position the ball further forward in their stance. The more forward the ball is in your stance, the more that's going to encourage an out to in move. The more that's going to shift the player's swing direction to the left for a right-handed golfer. As you make the swing direction rotate to the left, that makes it steeper. That's the first thing they do. What's the next thing a golfer thinks of to try and hit up on the golf ball? They put their weight on their back foot. Once again, that is going to have the effect of encouraging the swing direction to go to the left, and that is once again a steepener. Last thing I see the golfers do is they're going to try and held the ball up into the air, try and hit it high, tantamount to hitting up. And what do? They add loft by putting the handle of the club back. And again, that's a piece that makes the swing direction go left, which steepens the angle of approach of the club into the golf ball. So that's three things the typical player is going to do. Ball forwards, weight back, handle back, would all make that player swing the most out to in. And because of that, that also makes the club head trajectory into the ball the steepest, which is contrary to everything they're trying to achieve. If we now go through those same three things from the down the line view, so I said the golfer is going to position the ball forwards, weight back, handle back, and what I'm saying to you is that that is going to make the swing the most out to in. It's going to shift the swing direction to the left, which makes the angle of attack, the angle of approach into the ball, the steepest. So what you need to try and do in reality is to have it come much more from the inside, which is going to be much shallower. The analogy I sometimes make is that when you're coming with a big leftward swing direction, the club head here is very high up, and yet we're very close to impact, so it's almost like a helicopter vertical landing into the back of a ball. What you're trying to do is to get much more of a straight swing direction, and from there the club head is much closer to the ground much sooner, and I think that it's a little bit more like a jumbo jet landing very smoothly along the runway. I've said we don't want to be a helicopter landing vertically like so into the ball. We want to be much more of a jumbo jet with a smooth landing. So now let's have a look at an expert player and see how you can go about making this happen. What do you need to do to learn to make that smooth jumbo jet landing into the back of the ball? So here we have Matt Strahan, who is training to become a PGA professional and an aspiring player. And there are two things I'd like you to really notice in his swing. The first, from down the line, if you have a look at the hands, as he makes his backswing, they are working inwards. What do I mean by that? If I draw a vertical line down the butt end of his club at the top of his backswing, notice how the hands here 5 to 6 inches to the left of the trail shoulder. So he has depth. Because he has depth like this, it makes it much easier for him to have a relatively straight swing direction, to shallow the club out. And so you notice the club head is relatively close to the ground just before the strike, and you can see by the numbers flashing up that this was in fact an upwards hit. So the first thing is hands in. The second thing I'd like you to notice on the face-on view is how he's setting up with the ball directly underneath his lead shoulder, and he has his weight forward, so his hips are towards the target a couple of inches. So I would describe this as being 60-40 on the lead side. Then as he makes his backswing, he keeps his head relatively stable, but his hips keep going forwards, and they stay in that forwards position. So that when he's approaching the golf ball here, you'll see his upper body is side bent to the right, and he's done this by pushing forwards with the hips, not by moving backwards with the head. A very important distinction. And once again, the result of this is that he's been able to rotate his swing direction straight or ever so slightly to the right, and that's facilitated the club head coming into the golf ball on this shallow angle of attack that you see on the screen again. So what's really important is that you do not try and hit up by having the ball forwards in your stance ahead of the lead shoulder, your handle leaning back away from the target, and your weight back. If you want to learn to do this well and have a straighter swing direction so that you can hit ever so slightly on the upswing, then you need to do this by having a neutral ball position under the lead shoulder, by making your hands work inwards during the backswing with your hips moving forwards. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to pop them in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be sharing many more of these tips with you. If you would like to work with me, you can do so both in person or online using the Skillist app. Happy golfing.